Using Git as a central repository. I have set up Git for my own use so I can access a project from anywhere, and keep version safety if I happen to be working on part 10 over here, and part Y over here, and can merge if necessary. However, only one of my development machines has a static IP. My brain is stuck in CVS mode, so I tried to set up Git to have that machine be the central server, which all others pull from. This sort of works. I have a bunch of machines AC which do a Git pull from the master M, they do Git pushes to send the data back. The problem comes if I do development on the master. First, I can't figure out how to get the central repo to provide the latest version without doing. Which seems a bit excessive. And if I do development on the central machine before resetting, I'm not sure how to merge it with changes that have already been pushed up. Something about my mental model is way off. Help.
You want your central repository to be bare. Say the machine it lives on is named static. This bare repository is a central rendezvous point. It's for pushing to and pulling from, not development. Do your development on clones of the central repository. Even if you're on static, work in a clone. Although you're the only one working on this repository, get in the habit of doing your work on what the Git documentation calls topic branches. An immediate benefit of this is that it keeps a clean master, that is, you can always pull from your central master branch into your current local repository's master with no merging. For example, that may not seem like a big deal, but it gives you the freedom to leave the project as represented on that branch in a partially cooked state, or if your cool idea turns out to be a flop, you can easily throw away that branch without breaking anything else in your project that's already working on other branches. Infinite free mulligans. Maybe you go home that night and added a new feature. The next morning, to update your local master to reflect what's in the central repository. But now say you've fixed the foo bug and are ready to include it in your master branch. First, you want to integrate it with the changes from last night. The rebase command makes your repository look as though you fixed the foo bug on top of last night's new feature. This is sort of like SVN update, but more flexible and powerful. Now to get it into your central master. We've been treating master as special, but that's only conventional. You can share work on different branches of different repositories through the Git repository on static just as easily.
If you have a central server with a central Git repository, that repository should be a bare repository. Bare repositories don't have working copies of the files in them. Consequently, if you are working on that central machine, you don't work with the central repository directly, but with a local clone.
This answer is similar to GBacon's answer, but takes an approach that you already have a local repo set up and want to create a remote master that is treated as a central repo. It's just adding details from a different approach. I use Git to store my .config files. I push and pull from what I consider a central repo. It's quite convenient to reset all my .files through multiple computers. This created an empty bare repo on the repo site. Now if I already have an existing repo locally, I can push that to the remote site. Steer into the local directory. Add the remote repo as the origin, so push-pull will act upon that repo. Push my master to the origin, as previously labeled via the Git remote. Now that remote repo is treated as my central repo. All my Git push-pull will interact with the origin. If I go to another host, I can easily pull via clone that repo to a new location. If I want to do development on the remote server, I clone first, then pull back into the bare repo. You likely have to set your Git config at branch.master.remote origin so Git pull doesn't complain that you're not being specific enough. The other alternative is to set your master branch to track the remote origin. Useful if you have multiple branches.
I was just researching the same problem today. This blog post has a lot of discussion on the issue, but the majority opinion is to do what Manny said. Look at a comment on the post by David French for some other possibilities, including what to do if you do end up mistakenly pushing to a repository that has uncommitted work in the index or working tree. Git reset, soft head caret will back out the push change without disturbing your work.